podcast copyrights. It's been a long time, but the Salon will start right now. Ahoy, hoy, friends. One last time. That's right. It's been a long road. We've gone from there to here. Get excited. Tonight we are talking about the second half of Star Trek Enterprise Season 4, the last season of the series, unfortunately. The best one, in my humble opinion, and I think my cohort agrees. So we'll get into it momentarily. Before then, all the podcast things, please do like and subscribe here on YouTube, on Twitter, on Bluesky, any podcast platform you like. We are at Salon Trek in all of those places. You can also throw a couple of dollars our way for some fun bennies and benefits over on patreon.com/Salon Trek, or check out our store on our website, Star Trek or salontrek.com. We got some fun stuff, a t-shirt similar to the one I am seen in here, and also some fun notebooks, whether you're an ensign or a captain or somewhere in between. We've got a notebook for you, and a couple of dollars come our way and help defray our costs. But most importantly, subscribe, comment on our videos, and share with your friends and family. Alrighty, enough of the podcasty things. The transporter is working better now, so let's beam in our crew, starting over in Virginia. Will, how are you?
Good. Hello. I have a hot take later, which I'm sitting on. So get ready, people. Gird your loins.
I swear to God, if it's one I've said many, many times, we're gonna mind touch and dance and joy.
Yeah.
Speaking of, let's go over to Maryland. Ken, how are you?
Hi, I've been mind touching myself all day. It's good to be here.
Okay. And
God.
Oh,
This is a family podcast, sir.
Good.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
Problematic day alert.
Earliest one, maybe the earliest one.
Getting it back to California. Trevor, how are you?
I'm going to need more of this.
Yes.
Also, quick question. Is a single member of a cohort just a hort?
And does he hear who?
What?
Sorry.
Oh, Jesus. The show died. The Salon doesn't need to, too.
Yeah. Womp, womp.
Wah, wah.
All right. Well, we're going to get into this second half of this season. Before we do, we simply must set an intention.
This is obvious, but don't forget to set an intention when you light it, or you're just going to be wasting the wax.
Yes. To set an intention tonight, I thought it would be fun if we got rid of Jonathan Archer one more time. I'm just kidding.
Please.
I tried for 7 weeks, Jesus, and was still unsuccessful. So what I thought we would do is go around the room and talk about what advice we would give Jonathan Archer as he marches out on that stage in the series finale to give a speech to what will become the founders of the Federation. As always, I will start us off by simply suggesting that when he eventually becomes Federation president, that perhaps he make priority preparing for those crazy cyborgs that they met a couple seasons ago. Because, it's going to hit the fan. We'll talk about that shit hitting that fan more next week. Little teaser.
Preview.
But yeah, they looked scary. You might want to get ready for them. Ken, my dear, what would you tell Jonathan Archer on his way out to deliver his famous speech that we never hear?
Invest in some acting lessons.
Ow.
Wow.
That's what I would say. If he's going to become president of the Federation, you have to be able to, although another captain of the Enterprise kind of talked like this, it's still needs acting lessons. That's what
somewhere in between the extreme of Kirk and the, it would be nice. All right. Harsh, but I love it.
Moving forward when you get angry.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of adding
Speaking-
this.
Speaking of other things that are harsh and I love, Will.
Nice save, Trev. I would go up to him and I would just go, stop this. Yeah, just all of this, just stop. Also, just have Paul do it. Like I would, you can't just stop. Like no, I wouldn't say anything. I'd probably try and trip him on the way out. I'd be like,
Yeah.
sorry, oh no, you tripped. No. Just
Him
stop.
being the first president is headcanon, so I'm going to change that to Paul anyway.
It's
Or
it's
not headcanon.
it's in his biography in A Mirror Darkly.
Oh, I saw
is it?
I saw it say that he was chief of staff of Starfleet.
He was, and he became a president. We don't know that he was the first president.
Oh, well,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
Ooh, early thumb war.
I don't write the shit. I just read it.
I took this a little differently. Instead of giving him like last minute advice before he walks out, I want to help him with his speech ahead of time. I
That's fair.
think he should, because the whole theme about these different alien races coming together in coalition, I think he should make his speech about his crew doing just that over the previous 10 years, particularly highlighting things like Travis being a space boomer, but forging his own path rather than what was expected of him. Hoshi being really afraid of space at first, but finding those legs, not only because she was more capable than she thought she was, but she's also this brilliant linguist and helped brought people together. And then weave into Paul and his early days being skeptical of each other, but look at the bond that we have, like, they have forced both of their cultures together by creating their own special bond. And then, of course, you also have Phlox, who from day one was modeling the behavior that we could all should expect of each other. Optimism, working together, etc. And like in doing that, weave in, and the Andorians this, and the Tellarites that, and the Rigelians this, and like make his speech not about him, but about his whole crew coming together, just as this new United Federation of Planets is going to. And that would be my advice for him. And also to retire.
Nicer than mine.
Didn't he know?
You're bad. You're bad at this. You're terrible.
Yeah.
What
He knew it was going to be the United Federation of Planets because he saw that in the 30th century or wherever it was, right? He saw the book.
He knew that there would be a thing called the Federation of Planets, and Daniels broke the rules and told him it's a coalition of planets and you're pivotal to getting it started.
Ah, gotcha.
So the Federation is a preordained predestination paradox. That's what I'm trying to think of. Anyway, intentions are set. Lovely as always, even though we didn't get to kill Archer one more time, but that's all right. Let's talk about our top thoughts. I'll kick us off. This, like I said last week, I think is the best season of this show. I think if they had been channeling this vibe throughout, they probably would have gotten to their 7 seasons. I think like getting to the 4th season to really hit your stride is a bit too much for a fledgling network, obviously, and that's why they got canceled. But in this season, you've got better storytelling, better character development, better use of recurring characters. The special effects have gotten much sharper. The lighting is a little weird, as Will noted last week. Like, it never bothered me until you said it. And I'm like, oh yeah, it does look a little high school theatery. But overall, I think this season does a great job, particularly with sets, not lighting them, but like putting them together. And, you know, on this entire rewatch, now that we're at the end of it, I've realized I don't like Trip that much. I don't like Archer that much. there was an opportunity with them, and it got much better in this season. So kudos to them. And my last top thought, I've said this before and I'll say it again. These are the voyages should not have been the finale. The problem with that episode is that it's the finale, not the episode itself. If it had come prior to Demons and had Demons and Terra Prime been the series finale, it would have worked much better. Also cut the idea entirely, like that would have been fine, because like they spent money rebuilding those sets and that was weird. Whatever, but should not have been the finale. Terra Prime should have been. And those are my top thoughts. Will, your top thoughts on this half of the season?
Yeah, this season, it starts out a little uneven for me and then ends probably in some, like, the direction the show should have been going anyway. Like this was, it's a little absurd. I'll save my thought about the finale until later, but I think that this is when they finally start playing with the idea that this is a prequel. Like they start digging more into it and building foundations for stuff we've seen. The problem is they should have been doing that from episode 2. Like it should not have been 4 seasons down the road, 1 season fighting aliens we've never heard of, to then not introduce us to the universe that we've come to know. Like coming at it from a place of like, that's close in a way closer to where we are now versus where, you know, the original series starts. I think it's a huge missed opportunity. It's such a bummer. And, I'll talk about it later, but I think the season ends strong. I think some of the best stuff we've seen is in this season. I think and I think the last 4 episodes I think are the best this series has ever done. Minus We Are the Voyages. I don't count that as the final episode, but I think those last from Amir Darkly to Terra Prime, I think are the best episodes they've written because there's great character development. It's fun. It's exploring the franchise. It's doing something where it's playing with the expectation of what we get is from Star Trek. And I think that it's, I was not upset when it got canceled. I was glad it was over because I was tired. I could tell everyone was tired. And it's just a bummer that this season goes out on such a weird ass note.
Yeah.
And by all extensions, the original run of Star Trek. Like after this, we get the JJ universe, and then we get the Paramount Plus stuff. By all means, this is basically the death of the Roddenberry era of Star Trek, for all intents and purposes. And we'll talk about it later. I have something to say about the episode, my hot take. But anyway, Ken, darling.
So yes, this is the end of the Roddenberry era, the end of the Berman era, and I think that's what they tried to do with the final episode to sort of wrap it all up. That's one of the reasons they went that way. We'll talk about that. I agree. I think that this, when you're a prequel to Star Trek, when you're called Star Trek, you have to look at all of the assets that you have in the history of the franchise, regardless of where you are in the franchise, whether you're at Enterprise or in the Paramount Plus stuff. It's always a fine balance to say, okay, let's take advantage of the fact that we're part of the Star Trek universe. Let's do things that tie into the Star Trek universe without overdoing things that tie into the Star Trek universe, right? That's a very fine balance. And I think this season of Enterprise got it right for the most part. They didn't overdo it for the most part. They took advantage of their history. They took advantage of some of the stories that were already out there, and they built on them. And they highlighted their characters, their set of crew members from their show, and they advanced their character arcs and advanced their individual characters using a lot of the assets that they had from 50 years of the show, or 40 years of the show at that point, or 30, whatever it was. So I give them kudos for that. And as we go through the episodes, sometimes they may have overdone it a little bit, but they didn't quite overdo it as some of the newer shows have done, which I've griped about in the past. And that's it. That's my top thoughts. Trev, my dear.
I think this home stretch, to coin a sports ball term, is probably my favorite sort of run of episodes in Enterprise. And I will, spoiler alert, probably be very positive, including These Are the Voyages. I agree with Stan that I don't think it's as awful an episode as it is just a bad series finale. But even then, it didn't bother me as much. We'll get into that when we get to the episode, and I'll poo-poo everyone who's poo-pooing on it. But the only thing that kind of bumps up against me is the whole notion of these like chunks of episodes that are 3-parters and 2-parters all seem mushed together at the end, which works just fine because the stories are good, but it would have been nice to space them out a little bit. It feels like they crammed them all in at the end. We did a couple in the first half of the season, and then the last half is pretty much, with I think one exception and the finale, a whole stretch of them. And so I would have preferred the 1960s Batman series season 3 version of giving us resolving the episode, but in like the last 2 minutes, you see the bad guys are up to something, and that's going to be what the next episode is about. Like that little ploy may have worked a little better for me. But I don't have a ton of complaints, and you'll see that as we move through these episodes.
Alrighty. Those are our top thoughts. Let's get into these episodes. But before we do, a quick reminder about how this thumb war works. Trevor is going to read the most accurate, perfectly written synopsis of the episode that he wrote himself. No, none of that is true. Descriptions not written by Trevor, varying degrees of accuracy and quality, which we will also discuss. So then we, of course, will vote on the episode and give it its final rating in perpetuity for the rest of time. This is how everyone will see this episode in the most scientific way possible, with our thumbs up, down, or sideways. If there is a tie, the first person to say their thumb choice in the chat will break that tie. Let's shoot our shot. Here we go. Thumb war.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to bundle the bundled episodes, correct?
Indeed.
Awesome. Season 4, episodes 12, 13, and 14. Episode 12, Babel 1, the Enterprise's benign cooperation in a peace conference between Tellarites and Andorians turns dangerous when a secret Romulan vessel begins attacking ships on all sides. Episode 13, United, a Marauder ship threatens to destabilize the region. Archer has a plan to capture it, but it'll mean unifying the Andorians, Tellarites, and Vulcans. Episode 14, The Anar. Archer visits Shran's icy homeland to find homeland, not homeworld, homeland. I didn't write it. To find a called the Anar. He finds out they're all connected to the Marauder ships in the region.
Indeed, they are. Trevor, you want to kick this batch off since you love 2 and 3-parters?
As you're going to get sick of hearing about in the month of May, yet another spoiler alert. As much as I despise multi-parters, these Enterprise figured it out. Unfortunately, they just figured it out too late. These little chunks work really, really well. Many of these episodes, maybe not so much in the earlier half, but in the latter half, many of these episodes work as standalone episodes and have sort of their own stories that just connect, which really, really works. It'll work even better in shows like Strange New Worlds and the few times that Discovery was able to kind of give each episode its own plot. I loved the exploration of the Andorians. I feel like we were given a very two-dimensional explanation of them and their culture in seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4.1. So we're finally getting a little bit more in depth to actually get to visit their star system, to actually see more of them and not all just people that report to Shran. Was fun and interesting. I still feel like these 3 episodes would have worked better as 2. I think there was a little too much story in the 3 episodes, even though I've just told you all a bunch of positive things about the story. But all in all, I enjoyed the 3 episode romp, despite my normal predilection for disliking multi episode chunks.
Yeah, this one to me felt like it was a 2-part episode with an epilogue.
Yeah.
Like the end of United kind of felt like, okay, like this could be something that could pick up later, and then it just did the very next week. And so it of course was a continuation of the episode. And the naming convention wasn't part 1, 2, and 3, so they were, like you said, separate stories. But I think you're right. The third bit was a little disjointed from the other 2, which I thought was an interesting take on the mini arc opportunity.
What I think may have worked better for me is like a teaser about the conference in the first episode, but then a 2-part episode about the Marauder ship, and then a whole episode about the conference. Like, now that that's been dealt with, let's focus on this, and then we could do a very Star Trek-y diplomatic conference episode where somebody's got a bomb in their antenna and we've got to figure out who it is. Like, just break it up a little bit, and that would have been, I think, if Trev rewrote the episodes, which I'm not a writer and I don't work in television, so, take that for what it's worth. But, as a fan of the series, those are my 2 cents.
I did like the goal of these episodes. Like Will was saying earlier, they finally lean into their premise. Like, this is before the Federation. Let's see how it starts to form. And so here we do. And that's why I put in the visual, at the end of United, all of those ships together. Like, we're starting to see it. We're starting to make this happen. Getting the Tellarites and the Andorians on board, similar to how they got the Andorians and the Vulcans to get along a little bit, and like seeing how humans are better than we currently are and how we're playing a role in the future bringing folks together was really cool to see. So that was my takeaway from that batch. Will, how about you? What were your thoughts on them?
There are so many plot holes in these episodes. Like there are so many, and I think the last episode, the ANR, is the worst of the 3. I think they progressively get worse, and I agree with Trev that I think it should have been 2 episodes, or like an episode that's unrelated but associated with it. Like, it really be like fully related to each other, but it would have been nice one that kind of sets this up, and then the 2 that follow really dig into it. It's just the ANR is like I found it almost unwatchable. I was like, this sucks. Like, this character development is good, but I thought there were so many plot holes, and I thought it was the weakest of the stories, and I just don't think it wraps up this well enough. And it's, I don't know, it just felt like maybe they're out of order. Like, it was just weird. That last episode just really stuck in my mind of how bad it was. It's they're leaning into the premise of the premise of the show, which is nice, and the kind of revelation that the Romulans are the ones involved with this is really cool. I do hate that they reused the ship, the Hollow ship that they're using. It's borrowed, I think, from a couple of Voyager episodes, and it sucks because it doesn't look Romulan to me, but not in a way where it's like they just colored it green. And it looks like a flea, which is interesting, but like, it's not, I don't know. It was like, y'all couldn't have designed something, like, come on.
For the Hollow ship of it.
Yeah, or cut some of it off, because it was just, anyway, it was just budget cuts, I get, but it was just kind of upsetting. This is the second Romulan ship we've seen as a reuse, but which I mean, I guess is par for the course, but yeah, I thought this was good. I do think that it ends pretty shittily. There's too many plot to answer enough questions. It just kind of ends. Like, I didn't find the conclusion to be satisfying at all.
Yeah, the ANR stopped being interesting once it was just the sister on the ship. Like, the stuff on the planet, I was like, oh, this is interesting. Yeah. This is going somewhere. Their culture. No, it's just brother and sister.
It got aimless. It kind of, it piddled out. It just became super aimless. I was like, yeah, like I need some. It needs to. It just doesn't end in satisfyingly. And I guess it wouldn't, but it would be nice if it ended with like, oh, this leads to whatever, or like the Romulans are gonna start fucking with stuff, or what, that's like fun. But it just really.
I felt like I know they needed a reason to like keep Shran around for this. And apparently the like I forget who said it the other week, but like the idea of bringing Shran on more in season 5.
He was supposed to become a member of the crew.
Yeah, which would have been interesting. But
yeah,
I think I liked the Anar, like I said, on the planet, but I'm wondering maybe it would have been interesting if this is where we get introduced to the Betazoids. Because they needed the Romulans needed a telepath. Why an Anar?
Right.
Why? But whatever. Ken, your thoughts on this batch?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is these episodes show once again how important Journey to Babel was to the universe of Star Trek, because that episode introduced the Andorians and the Tellarites, and a lot of the stuff that Enterprise in particular carried through. Also, I think, Jeffrey Combs is an amazing actor, and anything that he's in, and he's done, we all know he's done so much with Star Trek, but he runs circles around Captain Archer. Yeah, Bakula. Thank you. And it's just a delight to see him on screen. I think these episodes were ultimately very good in sort of story building and land, universe building. The one thing that I didn't really like about this story is if the Romulans had this ability to do this hollow stealth stuff, where to go?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's like they had it and then they never touched it again. And I think that to me is the biggest problem. Don't introduce technology. Like we knew the Romulans were advanced. We knew that they had the cloaking device. We knew they had that plasma weapon. All of that, they showed their advanced capabilities through Balance of Terror. So, to talk about how advanced the Romulans were, that's great. But to create this holographic ship, which no one really had until, you don't see anything like that again until Insurrection, right? Which is weird. So that I thought was a little bit of a jumping the shark kind of thing for this episode. But everything else, I mean, the world building with the races, the dynamic between the Andorians and the Tellarites, I thought was delightful and was on point, with everything else that we know about those races. So for the most part, I think these were good with a couple of exceptions in plot holes, like Will was saying.
Yeah, I agree. The technology bit got me too, because we certainly didn't know this yet. But like, if there was some sort of like, oh, you're using artificial intelligence with this system, and the Zhat Vash do whatever to disrupt it so that they could never use it again, or something, or another line of dialogue about like how touchy this technology is, and it will not work without an Anar of a certain prowess, and now the Andorians know that we've done this, so they're beefing up security, blah blah blah. Like, yeah,
I mean, the best example of that was in Strange New Worlds when I think it was number 1 who said there will never be holographics on the Enterprise ever again. I thought that was classic. So that's something like that. Yeah.
I did feel like it being a holographic ship was a little, again, outside the technological scope of them at the time. But if it was like, oh, it messes with your sensors, so you can't see it. Like it messes, it's like it does something where like there's a workaround. They go, oh, we figure out how they're messing with our sensors. So like that, or like it's creating these things where it's creating ghosts and different ships and things, but it's just messing with sensors rather than being holographic, which, I don't know. That was one thing that always bugged me, but I think it bugged me more that I didn't like the ship.
Yeah, that would be that would be great, Will, because that follows directly into like cloaking device technology.
Yeah,
you just described would flow into cloaking devices. Yeah.
But unfortunately, they gave us Minefield already, which showed us a cloaked Romulan ship. Yeah.
Right.
Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was what I just described, and now they're using it to create different ships. You know, you never know. But it's a lack of imagination. You can tell because they're tired. Like, let's make holograms. Yeah. And like,
Yeah.
it's just it is what it
Just
is.
reverse the polarity. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Heck,
So
the
this batch
Petrion
of
beam from the deflector. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I should have thought about that earlier. Yeah. Full power. Let's see those thumbs for this batch of episodes.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a thumbs up.
Three
Look at
thumbs
that.
up and sideways. So it's a thumbs up for the Salon.
Alrighty then. Episodes 15 and 16, Affliction and Divergence. Episode 15, Trip begins his new assignment aboard the Enterprise's companion ship. Again, I did not write this. Klingons capture Phlox and force him to help them find a cure for a virus that threatens their race. What should say species? Episode 16, Archer pursues the kidnapped Dr. Phlox deep into Klingon territory. Dr. Phlox decides to cooperate with the Klingons and help find a cure to a virus that is ravaging one of their outposts. So, for those of you keeping track, this virus both threatens and ravages.
Does so many things.
All the things.
Trip should have remained off Enterprise until Demons. It would have made that batch of episodes better. It also would have, like, him leaving was just more Trip whining like a little bitch. Forgive my gendered language and the use of the word bitch in that tone, but like it's very that, like, it's very early 2000s. How can I insult this mediocre white man? Call him a bitch. Like, that's the worst thing that he possibly could be, and that's the way he's acting. His replacement, while hot, also whiny little bitch. Like, my goodness, what is it with engineers in Starfleet at this point in time where they just can't handle other shit? And yes, Joanne's right. We should blame women. It was T'Pol's fault. I love Dr. Phlox getting something cool to do. I did not need them to explain the visual continuities about the Klingons. Like, I do not care. Discovery Klingons are fine as well. They have always changed. I want Star Trek from now on, every single time there is a Klingon in a new show, to give us a new design just to piss people off. That said, we got Uncle Phil in Star Trek, which is lovely. Ken, your thoughts on these two episodes?
So I have to admit, I didn't watch these this time. I've watched them, of course, but not this time. So I don't have
Will, your thought on
detailed
these
memories.
two
Hold
episodes?
on. So I agree with you. I don't think you need to explain, the Klingon look. I think it was perfect to leave it the way they left it in Trials and Tribulations with Worf. They are Klingons, and it's a long story. I think that they just leave it like that. And they didn't have to explain it. So I think that was just them trying to overcompensate. And yeah, that's all I got to say about these.
William?
I didn't mind these ones. I thought they were kind of fun. I think Billingsley is, again, a gem on the show. I think he acts his ass off in these handful of episodes.
Yeah.
I agree with Ken. I don't think they, and also you, Stanley, where I don't think they needed to explain the makeup change for the Klingons. I just don't think it's necessary. I think they poked fun at DS9, and I think that should have been the end of it.
Yep.
Though I do like the idea of them going after the augments. Like, yes. I don't the part that's what's altered their appearance, I think works as like a point, but it, like, I like the idea of the episode. I don't think they were super necessary because they're a little like fan fiction-y in a way, where it's like, take these things that happen, and it was nice to see that the repercussions of something happening earlier in their season having an effect later, which has happened multiple times in the season, which is great because it makes you feel like these things matter. Because like in Next Gen, that what happens in the episode never matters. It's just it's
Yeah.
over with. I mean, how many times have we had something introduced and it's gone the next week? So it's nice to get something like that. I do think the last 10 minutes of the second episode of Divergence, I think the show just falls off the rails. Like in the battle, the fight scenes and the battle scenes were just like really kind of lackluster. They were kind of a little mundane, but I thought these episodes were fun.
Yeah,
for the most part. Again, I don't think this episode. Yeah, it's cool seeing the Columbia. I think again this doesn't end strong. Like it starts out really strong and it kind of peters out.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion. The last 10 minutes are crazy. Like it's completely runs off the rails in the last 10 minutes of the episode.
It also, like, the Columbia bit of it, like, it happening immediately after they made this, I'm leaving the ship, and it's not because of you, T'Pol. I'm not a whiny little boy. It's because I want a challenge. Whatever. They immediately have to meet up with the ship. And then also, like, how Columbia is right there, even though they were back at Earth. Like,
yeah,
where and how? Like, it was like we want to do this cool thing with the sister ship or companionship per synopsis writing for some reason.
Get it? Companionship.
Yeah. Trevor, what were your thoughts on these episodes?
I'm counting that as a Ken dad joke. Sorry. I'm on team Chris in the comments here because I actually really enjoyed these two episodes and I like the explanation. I'll even push it a step further and say I would have liked it maybe a little better if instead of the augment virus affecting the appearance of Klingons, if instead they were all, I mean, this is the most, for all intents and purposes, the most warlike species that we've encountered internally. They are very comfortable engaging in civil war. They're very comfortable slaughtering each other and anyone they choose to conquer. So what's to say that the Discovery Klingons didn't just get wiped out by the Klingons who lived on another continent or another planet in their star system, who appear slightly differently to them, but vastly different to us because we're not accustomed to seeing them and they're quote unquote alien to us. And so their appearance is radically different. Whatever the explanation is, I don't mind the little, hey, let's go ahead and explain this. It's kind of like in Discovery in the finale, the tie-in between Discovery and the short treks Calypso. Lots of people were like, I didn't need that. Well, like, not to poke fun at my friends here, but like, you don't need Star Trek. Like, it's a show, it's entertainment, it's fun. They did a thing. I'm sorry, Will. I know everyone gasped. Clutch your pearls. I'm teasing, but seriously, we didn't need any of it. It's just fun, and so just go along with it. But if it wasn't fun for you, I still love and respect each of you.
I think the phrase you're looking for, Trev, is "get a life," right?
It's possible. Yeah. It's possible. I don't prefer quoting the Shat, even in his appearances on SNL. But yes, you're not far off. No, I say this all with love. This is one of the few two-parters that I enjoy. I enjoy that it, even though it's not a part one and part two. And I've got to give mad props to Billingsley because he's just fun and a delight. And these episodes remind us of how underutilized he was. Though if you listen to any interview with John Billingsley, he will tell you how excited he was to show up for a day and collect the same check that he would get if he worked for 5.5 days.
Yeah.
But more Billingsley is more fun for Trev. Last, I will just comment on the Columbia. I would have appreciated a few more tweaks to the bridge to make it seem a little bit different. And what would have been really cool is maybe a console behind Captain Hernandez for her first officer, Trip Tucker.
Yeah.
Having him laterally move over to be the engineer made no sense. It would have been really interesting if this were a promotion for him. And how would that have played out in his decision to eventually come back to Enterprise? How would it have played out with how everyone felt about him leaving? I don't know. It just would have added an extra element and made him a lot less pouty.
Yeah. It didn't make any sense. Like, oh, Columbia isn't working right. Like, what?
Right.
What?
And also, so you're picking the engineer, not the designer? Like,
yeah. Also, the bridge changes made no sense. I hate the new chair on both Enterprise and Columbia. The old chair
Sure.
was fine, but also like those random tubes. Like what?
How are you supposed to get your deposit from the drive-through to the bridge without this?
You know what? If that's what that was, I would respect it because a tube system on a starship might make
Can
some
you
sense.
imagine? Their comms officers like, printout message coming in from engineering.
We need some trioxin up from sickbay. Yes. Oh God.
Just
My
imagine
favorite
Captain
part of-
Hernandez being like, you know what we need in the bridge of this ship? Glowing tubes.
Yes.
Put them here. It's like, okay.
Lighting.
All right,
I want
girl.
to be lit. I want to be lit from the sides in a vibrating tone as I'm speaking on the view screen.
Obstructionist lit tubes.
the tubes firing from my face.
Side of the face. Yes.
Also, for those of you keeping track for Trev Trivia later, yes, the tube was my favorite part of going to the bank with my mom when I was a kid.
Vacuum tubes are cool. It's weird that we don't use them much anymore.
Makes me sad.
Speak for yourself.
Okay. There it is. Ken coming in hot.
Problematic day alert.
Let's see those thumbs for these 2 episodes, not for Ken's extracurriculars.
Could we do
3
both?
ups and a sideways. It's an up for us on the salon, and I am just gonna keep talking and moving us forward so that we don't get caught in the moment.
So you're saying it's an up like Ken with the vacuum tube?
God damn it.
Oh God. Oh God.
You got it.
Problematic day alert.
Look, those things suck.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Good night, everybody.
Bound.
Oh Jesus! Now we're talking about Bound. For fuck's
Bound.
sake. Oh, since we blew up the saucer. Season 4, episode 17, Bound. Oh God, I already don't like the way this starts. As a gift for negotiating with the Orion Syndicate, Captain Archer receives 3 Orion slave girls to do with as he pleases. But what pleases the slave girls, and what is in the best interest of the ship, prove to not necessarily be the same thing.
Isn't that always the way?
The fuck wrote this?
Yeah.
Whatever Google employee wrote this, they deserve to be returned to the office. That's all I have to say.
I will say I liked the twist that the slave girls are actually the ones in charge. It's all an act, and their pheromones fuck with people. Yes, bitch, use your power. Your femininity is a weapon when you so choose to wield it. That said, I think the women on the ship, rather than just getting headaches, should have been more instrumental to retaking the ship, rather than this like, oh, Trip's in love with T'Pol, and that's why it's like, so anybody else, like, if anybody else on the ship had a crush on some, like, and I know it's because they had mind melded and whatever, but like I needed more. I needed a little bit more.
Or not only affected by the pheromones in a heteronormative way. Like, can everyone just be horny?
Yeah, get Hoshi
Yeah.
on one of them green bitches. That would be hot, and I'm gay as hell.
Or-
like, go for it.
Or anyone
Also
whatever. All of a sudden, Mayweather and Trip are getting it on.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
I've never thought of that before.
No, not at all. Back to the
I'm thinking
vacuum
about it
tubes.
right now.
Problematic day alert.
Next week, Trev reads his Mayweather Trip fan fiction he wrote.
Yes. Spoiler alert. Salon programming is going in a wild direction.
Warp
Well,
drive to my hole. Oh.
it's a wormhole. No, there's medication for that. Don't worry.
Will, what were your thoughts on this episode? Jesus.
Hated it. I thought it was too obvious. It was dumb. I was just like, okay. Like, I kind of knew where. I don't remember seeing this episode. Like, I think I must have missed it. And then watched it. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then, like, literally, I would sit there and I'd go, and that's changing. And then this happened. And, like, I think the like, oh, the twist that they're the ones in charge, I think it's like a way for them to be like, so all the weird sexist things that we did early in the episode doesn't matter. It's like, all right. And if this feels like a Berman pitch, where he's just like, what if they're in and they're sexy and everyone's like horny for the slave girls and then whatever. And then someone comes in and goes, and then the women are in charge. And this one goes, oh, okay. Yeah, we'll end it that way. Like, it just feels like a Berman note. Like it, I don't know. It just, yeah, boot. And then Trip saving it was dumb. Like, the premise of it was really stupid. So it should have been that, like, the women were not as affected, or like straight women were not affected, or gay men were not affected.
Yeah.
Like, have Malcolm
Put
just
me
be
on
like, oh,
that
this
ship,
isn't
we'll
working.
shoot 'em.
Yeah, it would be really funny if Malcolm's like, oh, it's working on me too. Oh no, I'm not. Oh yeah, I'm. No, she's hot. Look at her vagina. Like,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Well,
Like,
and he
that would
dis-
be
or
really really funny.
he
Does anyone have any
disobeys
pineapple?
Archer. He disobeys Archer at one moment. And I was like, oh, Trip is actually acting normal. What if it's because he was gay?
She's like, this isn't working on me. Yeah, he should have been like, which, you know, when the Orions, the slave women come in, he should be like, ooh, sister, your work. That's
Yes.
like,
I just love these mounds of muscle on your chest.
hello, my name's Malcolm Reed, and I'm
golly.
the security officer and weapons officer on the USS Enterprise, and I can't wait to get home to my hot wife. Like, come on, bro. That wasn't his accent. I can't do his.
I know.
accent.
I love how to Will, Malcolm Reed is a senator from North Carolina.
Seems to be, yeah.
He does definitely give me Lindsey Graham vibes.
Yeah. Ken, what were your thoughts on the episode Bound?
Yeah, so this is another one I didn't watch recently, so I'm not going to say too much about it. But
Trevor, what were your thoughts?
I like what Norman said about, you know, how much of Tendi and the Orions that they carry through into Lower Decks from this episode. It's a good question. But anyway, that's it. Yeah, Trev, go ahead. Take it away.
Like, aside the awful description, yeah, like this whole episode, just if I could get a fuck Rick Berman banner, because like this whole episode is just dripping with what it, like you've already said it. Like, what if everybody was just hot for each other? But no, not the dudes. That's weird. Like, yeah. It's just, I can't. I don't. I like the plot twist. I like that it informs, and like as Lower Decks so frequently does, they took a thing that was done super wrong and did it better and made it both canon and also fun canon. Like it actually works. That it's more of a matriarchy than anything else. And yeah. Anyway, would have been interesting to see. I really struggle with their constant use of the term girl. But it would have been more interesting to see what the actual world was like for male Orions. Like, instead of what they tell us, they don't show us. So like, now that we're seeing behind the mirage, so to speak, it would be nice to see what that actually looks like. And we didn't really get that because, again, Rick Berman's afraid of gays. But as Star Trek episodes go, it's not
Orion until Discovery.
Yeah, and yeah, I didn't hate this episode, but there are a lot of this episode screams it belongs in like early seasons of TNG, where they're like, look how progressive we are, and it's not. It just, I struggle. That's all I got.
Let's see those thumbs for Bound. It's down.
Yeah, fuck you, Stan.
Fair enough.
That's actually a new category that we're keeping track of.
Any time that we all vote against Stan, I'd scream.
It rates automatic. I'm sorry, I'm distracted by Mayweather in these pictures. Episodes 18 and 19, In a Mirror Darkly, parts 1 and 2. Episode 18, part 1, In a Mirror Universe, A Mirror Universe, no, the Mirror Universe, but it says A on the summary. Archer mutinies against the captain of an immoral version of the Enterprise crew following an astonishing discovery in alien enemy territory. Episode 19, part 2, in an alternate universe, power-hungry Archer and the crew use the Defiant to thwart a Tholian attack and set their sights on seizing control of all of Earth's Terran empire. Bum, bum, bum.
Ken, did you watch these episodes recently?
Oh yes, I did today. In fact,
give us your thoughts on this batch.
So this was, first of all, having a an actual theme in these episodes. Instrumental theme was pretty interesting, going a different direction. Opening with that variation on First Contact, including the music from First Contact. They didn't bring the actors back. They did it in such a way where you didn't have to bring the actors back, but they cut it nicely. And I thought it was well done. I thought bringing the Tholians in, of course, having the Constitution class in there with the Defiant and the whole concept of leaning on the Tholian web, the episode of Tholian web. I thought that was very, very well done. I hate to say it, I like this Gorn design better than the Strange New Worlds Gorn design. It definitely seems to be a growth from Arena, but looks like it's from Arena as opposed to what Strange New Worlds is doing. But we won't get into that. I love the idea of using the grav plating as a weapon. That was very, very cool. I watched it and I paused and read the screens, where they had the history of the United Federation of Planets and Hoshi and Archer, and it was very well written. You could tell that Manny Kato knows his stuff and wrote all that stuff out. It was really cool. And, I thought it was great that they, how they used it. I thought they're using the booth, the Agonizer booth, tying in Mirror Mirror very nicely. Tying in all of the sound effects, and Trev is like, that's it, I'm out of here, apparently, so that's okay. So I think that it was very, very well done. I like these two a lot, to be honest with you. As a love letter to the original series, I think Trials and Tribulations was a better love letter to the original series, but this was a nice love letter to the original series that was well done. I liked all of it. That's it. That's my thoughts.
Will, what were your thoughts on In a Mirror Darkly 1 and 2?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. These are like two of the best episodes in the whole fucking series. Like, they're obviously people like went, oh, something fun to do. We're not just rehashing the same story. And like they built, they reutilized sets, and it was clever, and you could tell that people were for some reason, Scott Bakula's exactly this. Archer's the same in the Mirror Universe and in the regular universe. He's exactly the same in both, so that's funny. But like, it was clearly like, oh, we're gonna do something different, and it was like with this season they built. There's a lot of goodwill that they built with the stories and what they were doing, blah blah blah, and then like I think it's put really well in the season where it's a nice moment where it's like, we've shown you how the Federation's getting built. Now let's look at some other fucked up bullshit. And like, that's like a good way to it's a good palate cleanser for the season. It's great. I think the actors are having a good time. I think it's just one of the best episode, the two-parter episodes, really. But I think it's one of the best, if not the best episode of this or 2 episodes of the series. Like, they're phenomenal. Like, the production quality, everything's great. And having shown the original Enterprise in the Constitution class bridge, and showing that from the 60s, and showing how, oh, they go together. People, it let it gave them so much more license to do other stuff. Like people accepts the prequel because they saw these two things together and they worked. It was strange that they worked. Like it's the same stuff, and you get them close up together, they near each other, and you go, "Oh, these do make sense actually."
Yeah, you can
They're
see the
super
lineage.
chunky. There's all you see it. You go, "Oh, now I see how this is all different." So it made it make sense just by their proximity to each other, which is like, it's a great episode. It's great.
Yeah.
And they could have done it. They could have used the same sets for Strange New Worlds. Why not? They could
They
have
weren't
done it.
gonna. They weren't gonna.
They could
do
have.
that,
It would have
but,
worked.
I don't know if it would have. Not 20 years later, but we,
Yeah, I think
I think it works for the time.
2 episodes, like this isn't what we're doing every week. It works. And I'll throw in Trevor's headcanon here that every Star Trek episode is just a visual representation of a captain's log, and so Strange New Worlds is how Anson Mounts Pike describes the Enterprise, and that's why it looks so much better. He has a more vivid imagination than Jim Kirk did. I really enjoy these episodes. I liked the Gorn of it all. I thought they did a really good job. I forgot how this is a 2-parter, but both are distinct more than I think any other 2-parter in the franchise. This batch, like they work on their own. You don't need part 2 to enjoy part 1. Like you don't need to wrap it up. It could just be left at, like, it would be technically a cliffhanger of like, are they going to get away from the Tholians? But that story did end. They are now on that other ship. But then we do get a fun part 2 that isn't just, okay, a whole hour of getting away from the Tholians. There's actually something on the ship that we need to take care of. And seeing 2 different episodes of Archer being batshit crazy, and I agree, very, very similar to Prime Archer, like awkwardly so. I hate to say this, especially publicly on a recorded podcast. This is the danger of podcasting, but I have been pulled into he's not as good of an actor as I remember him being. Yikes. But love the way that it ends. I love Empress Sato. Listen, I know it's a little cliche at this point, but I love a femme fatale. I love a sexy bitch being like, ooh, come here, kissy, kissy, kissy. Oh, backstabby. I love it. I love that shit. Hoshi was fucking everybody, and good for her. Good for her. Good for Forrest. Good for Archer. Good for Travis. Hell yes. Good for them. This was fun. Trevor, what were your thoughts?
I sometimes feel like a Trek weirdo in that I love the mirror universe. It's very mustache twirly and it's very over the top, and I just enjoy the diversion. I like that Discovery made it darker and scarier because it felt super kind of, even though it was mustache twirly, maybe this is the 10-year-old that was watching it, but like I was frightened as a child watching the original series Mirror Universe. Then it got kind of weird in DS9 and just very slutty, which is great. Like I'm all for slutty, but not as terrifying. And Discovery gave that back to us. But in this, it was a fun romp. It was a cool, like I thought it was kind of, even though it seems like a natural thing for them to lean into, I thought it was a cool, just because of their attempts to tie in and be a prequel to the original series. It seems like it would be natural, but I thought it was risky to just say, you know what, fuck it, we're jumping into one of their episodes. Like we're not just going to talk about how that was formed. We're going to go do kind of a thing they've already done, but we're also going to borrow a ship from one of their other episodes, and we're going to lean into an alien from an even another episode. Like it kept getting more and more, fuck it, we're doing this. And yeah. I loved every second of it. I loved the Hoshi of it all. And yeah, for me, Archer, like, dude, maybe he should have just been more subtle. I don't know how to make Bakula better, but I will say Archer should have had a cat in the Mirror Universe instead of a dog. Like, just if we're going for it, go for it. but yeah, I very much enjoy these episodes. I like almost leapt off my couch in original run when the theme music was different and the theme
Yeah.
visuals were different. That was such a smart. We're doing a different these aren't Enterprise episodes. These are Mirror Enterprise episodes, and so it's not just the Enterprise crew going into the Mirror universe. This is a completely different show, and it's just 2 episodes of what would happen if there was a series taking place in this universe, and I very much enjoyed it for that.
Yeah, it was super
Do
fun.
you guys feel like I agree? I love the fact that they just did totally different. They didn't even have to tie back to their show. They just were doing these 2 episodes standalone. Is there a line of succession between Hoshi Sato and Giorgio?
No.
No,
We know there's
there
not
was
because
there
of
was a
Section
little bit
31.
of thought of Section 31 kind of gets rid of that because it's not based on lineage, it's based on like
The Hunger Games.
what the Hunger Games
Yeah.
basically. So they changed it in Section 31. There was a long there were some fan theories that Giorgio was a descendant of Sato, but Section 31 kind of retcons it.
Yeah, it's also
It still theoretically could be, but not in terms of
and
like being
I get it, but it's also slightly problematic because they just both happen to be Asian. They are not from their lineage is not from the same Asian countries.
Okay.
Thumbs for In a Mirror Darkly 1 and 2. Thumbs up all around. Alrighty.
Episodes 20 and 21, Demons and Terra Prime. Episode 20, while on Earth for an historic Starfleet conference, Archer and the crew uncover a plot by a radical group of humans opposed to the increasing number and influence of aliens on Earth. Too close, too soon. Episode 21, Archer and his crew must stop Paxton, a well-armed radical human isolationist who threatens to destroy Starfleet Command unless all aliens leave Earth immediately. Awkwardly, they then vote him in as president. No, sorry, that last part was just...
Whoops. RoboCop in Star Trek for the first time before he becomes Admiral Marcus in the Kelvin verse years later.
Same character.
Basically, yeah. I love these episodes. I love seeing T'Pol with that baby. It was adorable. Trip crying at the end, like, kudos to Connor because like we finally get like an emotional outburst from him that makes sense, and it was touching, and seeing their bond increase. The only thing I didn't like in this episode was Trip questioning T'Pol's honesty, like about whether or not she hid a pregnancy. And kudos to Phlox being like, oh, and she just got rid of the embryo also without telling you. Like, how would that, you dumbass, how would that twig of a Vulcan hide a pregnancy from you? Go fuck yourself. That pissed me off. But the 2 episodes as a whole, again, as a series finale, would have absolutely slapped, especially having the ending be about you all have just seen the worst of humanity, and it's a direct result of xenophobia. It's an ugly part of us. We have to acknowledge that. But also the best of us, these heroes from Enterprise, stopped those demons. Chef's kiss. Lovely. One other side note, not a negative, but a note. The minister, I would have liked to have heard a little bit more, like, minister of what? Minister of like what's the Earth government that, because it's not a Starfleet conference as the synopsis said. It's an Earth government. So like a little bit more world building there. And also if they could have introduced this character a few episodes back, I think it would have been a nice touch, because him coming out of nowhere in this season where they're doing a better job of touching from having different touchstones of characters and arcs like they did with T'Pol's mother. She was introduced several episodes before she came back. I think that could have been helpful, but overall really great. And again, to Paul with that baby was just endearing and adorable. And Jolene deserves all the flowers. Will, what were your thoughts on these episodes?
No surprise, I did enjoy them a lot. I think it's you see the throughout the series that you see that the Vulcans and the Andorians, we don't get much from the Tellarites, unfortunately, but the Vulcans and the Andorians, they're not they still have problems, and that humans, that's the Starfleet, that they still have we still have problems. So to see that come, that this be like the reconciling with our own demons, humans, that, you know, we didn't just emerge all of a sudden, get warp drive, and all of a sudden all of our problems went away, that that human nature is still infallible. It's something to work on, and that that you have to kind of fight for your better angels, fight for the Star Trek future that they're fighting for, that we should all be fighting for too. And I think seeing that, it makes them seem more it makes the humans of this show seem more realistic, because sometimes it feels like the humans of the show, the Starfleet, they're always like these kind of flat characters in some instances, where or human culture is very flat. I shouldn't say the characters, the human Earth, all of that seems pretty flat. If you're not on some other scary rape planet or something, that Earth, it's just oh, everything's really nice, nothing really happens, everything's quiet, and everyone just kind of does their thing, and it's, everyone's super enlightened or whatever. But to see that there's this other stuff happening, and it paying off later in the season, how we've seen it in the first half of the season, and it paying off, I think is this is the best move that they could have done to really end this season on this note, having planted so many seeds earlier in the season, and stuff even from season 3, the repercussions of the Xindi attack caused these things to happen. And even at the time, I think it was a bold move that this kind of represents what happened post 9/11. I don't think they go far enough, but I think for the time, that's about as deep as you were going to go without getting fully fucking canceled. Talk to the Dixie Chicks, or the Chicks, talk to them, because you couldn't criticize it. But them kind of talking about Islamophobia in 2005, I think, was xenophobia reflects, the Islamophobia we experienced here in the United States, I think was a smart move. It's very good. They're very, very good episodes. I think Peter Weller just chews the scenery, which I enjoy. I don't think that man has a volume lower than that. He, even in Into Darkness, it was oh, you're just he's gnawing on the set. I'm just I love it. He's so much as an actor. But yeah, anyway, that's it. Trevor, who wants to fight for it?
I really enjoyed these episodes too, for a lot of what you just said, Will. I think you summed it up well. Peter Weller, he's an interesting guy. And yes, he's essentially playing the character he played in Star Trek Beyond, is essentially this character. So
Into Darkness,
I think,
how dare you?
Oh, Star Trek Into Darkness, yes. Into Darkness, my mistake.
Get off this podcast.
Yeah, sorry.
Just kidding.
I even saw that. I went to the premiere of Into Darkness and saw Peter Weller cut in front of me at the buffet at the after party. But anyway, that's
you did.
So
Will was in it.
yeah, Will was in it. Were you at the premiere, Will?
No, I was at Berkeley at the time. And I wasn't invited, but no, I was in school at that point.
Well, Berkeley was a better choice.
About it.
So I think these were very good episodes. These were episodes that were the one inconsistency, which is inconsistent throughout the entire history of Star Trek, is in this episode, and it drives me nuts. When they say that they're going to do a 5-second warp burst, and T'Pol says, "While you're still in the system," what? Okay, they did say that in the motion picture, but in Star Trek 4, the bird of prey goes to warp drive in the atmosphere. I mean, that drives me
Well,
crazy.
that's different.
Yeah. So, here's Trev. You gonna fix it, Trev? So,
Maybe.
okay.
I think there's a difference between going to warp in our solar system in 1986 versus going to warp in a post-warp developed civilization that has ships, shuttles, people beaming. Like I think that the risks are significantly increased when you have things moving through a system that are unexpectedly potential targets that you can't anticipate. So I don't think you travel at warp through a populated star system, because while you can project not running through another planet, you can't necessarily project running through the trajectory of everything else that's moving through there when all of that is unpredictable.
Yeah. And in
So
Star
it's
Trek
like the
IV, there wouldn't have been
hyperdrive.
anything else.
It's the hyperdrive challenge from the second sequel, Star Wars.
Well,
right?
because you're not it's not like hyperspace where you're traveling through another plane or dimension. You're warping the space around the ship. So you are technically moving through that same space. And so the idea that you could run into a small shuttle going from Mars to a moon of Jupiter is exponentially larger than it would be in 1986 or in a system that is not populated.
Gotcha. All right, maybe I'll buy that. But anyway, so that's that was the one thing that I didn't like, because it's like when they're like, you're doing it in the system, 5-second warp burst. And a 5-second warp burst from the moon to Mars doesn't quite work for me either. But anyway, beyond that crazy thing, I thought it was a fantastic episode. Both episodes were very well done. And yes, the emotions with Trip and T'Pol at the end, and T'Pol coming in and basically demanding as a mom to Weller. Great dynamics between Jolene and Peter Weller. Those were some great scenes. That's it.
Calling that bitch out on his hypocrisy. And like other fascists and Republicans, hypocrisy is not a bug. It's part of the programming. Let's see those thumbs on Demons and Terra Prime. Thumbs up all around. That's right. It's unanimous. Unanimous. All right.
It's been a long road, y'all. Episode 22. These are the voyages. Archer and the crew return to Earth to face the decommissioning of the Enterprise and the signing of the Federation Charter. Not really. Ratifying a newly formed alliance of planets, which they helped forge.
I'm going to rant for a moment.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, this episode, generally speaking, is fine. It should not be the finale. It should have come before the previous two, as I said, or somewhere else. Because had they done that, I think it could have been really cool. Be like, oh, how cool seeing the future Enterprise is showing us a story of this Enterprise from their perspective. Like, that conceit could have been interesting had it not felt so out of place being the finale. They spent so much money recreating not just one set. Like they did, it's on in the background now, and I forgot about this. They did the observation lounge, they did 10 forward, and they did at least 2 corridors. Like TNG had ended, and the movie Generations blew everything up 10 years prior. The amount of money they must have spent to not get the uniforms quite right, not get their hair right. Like you spent all that money on sets, but you couldn't get Riker's hair right. You couldn't give Marina a better wig. And thank God they didn't redo the bridge, because then we would never hear the end of it. Depend on that for now. Like, the performances from our Enterprise crew are excellent, especially, again, Jolene, even Archer. Like, I think Bakula shines in this episode more than he typically does. There's some really interesting moments for him, but then there's also like, it's very archery, whatever. It's interesting hearing that Shran had a child with Jamel, the Anar from the Anar. And then, yeah, Trip dies, which was unnecessary and way out of left field in a show that doesn't do way out of left field things. Even they will do a sharp right turn, but even then, like, season 3 is when they should have killed somebody if they were going to do it, like set the precedent. Waiting for the very last episode, very weird. But again, if this had come earlier and not the finale, I think these interlopers being on the ship could have been more interesting rather than feel weird and kind of disrespectful for the Enterprise crew. End of rant. Let's go to Will last because I think this is what he's been saving up a hot take. So Ken and then Trevor and then will close us out before we vote.
Okay, so I watched this episode again just the other day, and it came across better than I had remembered it. One of the things that I remember thinking about was when, first of all, you don't see the Enterprise, the Enterprise that the show is based on until the very, very end, because it's a holodeck episode. So you see the Enterprise D throughout the act breaks and everything. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, we've never seen the Enterprise D in this sort of, 16:9, really well done. And you wouldn't see the Enterprise D again in 16:9 until Picard season 3, actually. But I thought that, layering in the characters, when I first watched it, I thought layering in Riker was doing a big disservice to the crew. And the actors did have a problem with that, reading all the stories about the actors not liking the fact that they essentially it was a Next Generation episode, was their last episode, and that wasn't fair. And I can see that, but I think that they used Riker as the chef, in particular, as a way to sort of underscore the stories of our actors, of our characters from Enterprise, which I thought was well done. And I'm going to say something here that I know everyone's going to be very upset about, but I loved that the very last scene, Archer didn't say one, but he said, "Where no man has gone before." I love that. And I have reasons
because you hate women.
Yeah, because yes, no, because man is designed to be mankind, and I understand where they went to one for the Next Generation and everything after that. But I really was pleasantly surprised when I first saw this episode that they had Jonathan Archer say, "Where no man has gone before." And I did like the motif of the Enterprises. You suddenly had Picard. Now, obviously, it was pre-record of Patrick Stewart. It was pre-record of William Shatner. They didn't bring those actors back. They did bring Brent Spiner in for a voiceover line, which I thought was very cool, to do some of that continuity. And I thought it was actually very well done. I liked most of the story. I thought it was a little bit of a weird thing. That whole scene where Trip is setting up to trigger the explosion. It's like, where the hell is the rest of why is there no other crew? Where is anyone on this ship? Why there's no security? There's nobody walking the corridors. That drives me nuts. That, and that's a Star Trek thing, that trope that happens all the time. When it's a ship with so many people, but there's nobody around when you need them. Anyway, that's the end of my rant there. And now Trev.
All right, here we go. So on the no one versus no man front, because I'm going there. You didn't spool this up and not expect it to come unwound. To me, Archer saying no man undid a little bit of Kirk saying no man or no one at the end of Star Trek 6. Because I felt that was a beautiful way of tying things back together and making it more inclusive, and not referencing mankind, because the first Warp 5 ship wasn't just mankind. And certainly neither was 1701. So for me, it didn't stick quite right. That said, I agree with all of the previous rants that this would have made a much better episode versus series finale. I actually would like to take it a step further and find out that not that this had a tie into Pegasus, but that in fact A. Riker was chef. We know that Will Riker loves to cook. Why not make the chef on? We find out in the series finale that unseen chef this entire time has been a Riker.
Yeah.
That would have been kind of cool. And perhaps alleviated, not that I'm ever not interested in seeing Marina, because I'm always interested in seeing Marina and Deanna, but would have alleviated the need to make it a holodeck episode. Maybe it was just he was there because he was a Riker. Anyway, Trip's death never made any sense. It felt like it was for shock value, and like, but it's okay because it's 10 years later or however many years later. The jump forward didn't work for me because
They all had the same ranks.
everybody was the same rank, everybody was in the same chair, everybody, like, all we did was put people's names on their uniforms, their last names, which was a weird way of distinguishing this era because we never see names on anybody's uniforms again. So apparently it's very popular in the 21 whatevers. All that said, it feels like I remember enjoying like the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes, and everything that happens in the middle to me is just sort of lost and uninteresting. So the biggest criticism I have of this episode is that it's a little on the boring side, and that feels like it's an insult in and of itself to Frakes and to Sirtis, because they deserved, if they were going to be brought in, that should be exciting. If it's a finale, it should be exciting.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just kind of is blah for me. But everything that people get all worked up about this episode doesn't work me up. Like I'm like, I wish I had time to run and get popcorn for Will, because I'm certain it's going to be fantastic and probably several points I never thought of before. But the things, the frequently heard criticisms and not the unique ones that Will always brings to Salon, I've heard and I'm not concerned about, but I'm kind of jazzed about what's about to happen. So sit back and enjoy, my friend.
Meet that build up.
I know that the hype here. Okay, so I think that this episode is the perfect ending to Enterprise and the perfect kind of end to the Berman era of Star Trek. It is disrespectful. It's completely asinine. It rehashes things. It is a harken back to the time when he was relevant. It is a moment for him to go. It is basically a moment for him and Brandon Braga to go, don't forget who fucking controls Star Trek. I will take the biggest shit if you think that we're going to let you reclaim Enterprise, reclaim Star Trek. I'm going to take a huge dump in the middle of your dinner party, because this season it's the best season of the show and has very little involvement from them writing wise. And they come in the last episode and write one of the most disrespectful, annoying, insulting episodes of Star Trek. It is a massive middle finger to the franchise, to this series in general, and it's them thumbing their nose at their own failure and lack of imagination. That's what it is. All they did when they were in charge was cycle through and recycle and rehash episodes from TNG that they wrote and premises that they came up with when they were still relevant. And this is them going, fuck you, walking out of the party and throwing the middle finger and then knocking over a coat rack as they leave. Like, that's what this is. It's them going bye and then breaking a glass. It's the perfect ending to this series and a perfect ending to this era of Star Trek, because it thrived under their hands and then it died under their hands. It is a moment where two people didn't know when they needed to step away from something and they strangled it to death. We see this with any time that someone is in power, anyone is in control, they lack any of the hubris, any of the, like, generally just like introspection and fortitude and self-confidence to know that maybe they're not the person who's the most creative and able to leave something where it is and nurture a future generation. But they don't do that. They come in and they go, hey, this great 2-parter episode you wrote about humanity and their best angels, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna come through and I'm gonna fucking ruin your show. I'm gonna make your final episode not be about the crew that we spent 4 years with, but it's going to be about 2 people we brought in that you remember, in an episode that you kind of don't, that attach parts of this episode to something that doesn't make sense to the episode is associated with.
Mhm.
So fuck both of them. But I also say this is the perfect ending to this series and a perfect ending to the end of Star Trek, because they suffocated it to death. And they're at fault for it, because when this show started, when we started this Salon, you can tell how fatigued everyone is. And it's not them going, let's take a break, let's get this together, let's try something different. And the moment they try something different, the show's dying. And there's a group of people, Manny Cotto and these other writers, coming in and trying to salvage something and writing some of the best Star Trek we've gotten in the best episodes of the series. And all they did was come through at the end and take a massive fart in the middle of the room. It's awful. It is the most disgusting thing. And it is so Hollywood, and it is so indicative of men in power that they did this. It's absolutely awful. Don't know what I would do if I was on that show. I would have probably tried to take a swing at both of them. I'm like, I don't fucking care if I never work here again. You ruin this show, and then our last episode we get canceled, and then you do this. You write one of the most hated episodes. I don't even like. There's some points that I think are interesting, but like on the whole, it's lazy. It's sloppy. Like the details of it are terrible. They built these fucking sets. I'm sure that they were around, like they reused the
corridors,
a lot of sets,
certainly.
the corridors in like the conference room. That room was also what they used in the Enterprise E, and I know they still had that set because they used it for other things. So I know that they had those sets because they reused them a lot. But it's still fucking insulting, making the show's last episode not about the show. Because it centers on Riker. The end of the episode is not on the crew of the Enterprise. It's him leaving the holodeck.
Yeah.
So it's like, eat shit. I'm glad he doesn't work anymore. And then as much as I like the Orville, it's just a bunch of TNG episodes that him and that Seth MacFarlane's just writing dick jokes on top of. That's all they are. I'm sorry. That's all they are. It is TNG again. And it's just him writing dick and pussy jokes on top of it.
Yeah, Brandon Braga
That's
has made
it.
a lot of money rewriting his own episodes into a different franchise.
Girl, talk about being a fucking hack. Like, and then people, I don't want people to complain when now we got these new Star Treks and they're trying something new.
Yeah.
Because they have to. The reason Star Trek is the way it is now is because it ended like this in 2005.
Yes.
They went, this doesn't work anymore. And they had to dramatically change it. They had to make it more action. They had to make it more Star Wars. They had to do these other things that were still being successful. They had to do it because these guys strangled this franchise to death. And now we can't go back. We can't have these thoughtful stories. We can't have these stories where we talk about this in a nuanced way. We can't do it anymore because these 2 dudes decided to spread their fucking cheeks and fart in all of our faces. Anyway.
And with that, live long and prosper, everyone. No.
I'm leaving the holodeck. Bye.
Let's see those thumbs for These Are the Voyages.
Fucking torpedo girl. Send this out the fucking airlock.
We need a thumb of the audience because we've got 2 sideways and 2 downs. We need another down.
Oh, we got a lot of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Down. And that's a down. Hate to end it on a down, so let's end it on an up. Trevor, give us those tallies as only you can, and I will vamp. Unless you don't need me. Okay. The look on your face
while I was screaming. While I was making fart and poop jokes.
I did some pre-math during Will's experience. So So
See, Will had his own vacuum tube situation going on there.
Oh
Anyway,
God.
Oh, it's a callback.
What is yours, Ken?
yeah,
but it didn't
okay.
suck. It did not suck.
It didn't suck.
So
No.
for part 2 of season 4, there were 9 thumbs ups and 2 thumbs downs, which is pretty solid for a half a season, making all of season 4, the totals for all of season 4, 14 thumbs ups. That's not right. 5 thumbs sideways and 6 thumbs downs. Yes,
The best
that's
season.
correct. Yeah, no, we clearly agreed with ourselves.
As
there,
only we can.
there were 4 problematic gay alerts. There was 1 Kenwell actually. There were Will dragged a bitch 3 times. We fucked Rick Berman 4 times. There were 4 Ken dad jokes. There was 1 tosser alert. And we invoked the crystal rule of making the intention setter your own question once. Congratulations, Stan.
Thank you. And
Bonus
thank you, Krista.
points. And Krista and Absentia. Bonus points. I gave 69,000 bonus points to Ken for premature problematicness. I gave 3,000 bonus points to Joanne for bomb-ass bomb jokes. I gave 500 bonus points to Norman in the comments for giving Hoshi her due. And last, but certainly not least, I gave 1,701,000 bonus points to Will for fucking Rick Berman as only he could.
I'll see.
Complete with
I'll
vacuum
get
tubes.
my rebuttal in the parking lot, Rick.
That's right. And y'all, that's it. These are the voyages. It has indeed been a long road getting from there to here. Man, Jolene Blaylock, all the flowers, her holding that monster and that Frankenstein. My goodness. Y'all, that's it for the Salon. That's it for our thumb war for Enterprise. As has been teased, an update on Salon programming going into the month of May, the month of my birth, in fact. We are going to be doing a series of level 2 diagnostics. That's right. We are going to be deep diving into 2-parters starting next week with the quintessential cliffhanger of Star Trek, the best of both.
The best.
That's of both.
The homosexual of both worlds.
Who's
That's
back?
right. Next week, we will be kicking things off with the best of both worlds, parts 1 and 2. And in honor of bringing on Elizabeth Shelby, we will be having some estrogen returning to the Salon. That's right.
The women.
I speak for
The
both of
women!
them, but the women will hopefully be returning next week. They have not been purposefully excluded from Enterprise, but having other things going on in life and having not watched it recently, the ladies took a step back and let the white men be in charge for once. That's the
all
last
over.
Enterprise joke.
And it was a total flop, as we saw.
as you saw. Yeah, the numbers don't lie. So get excited. We're getting into 2-parters for the month of May. We'll see you back next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern for the Salon. You can also join us on Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific. I will be doing a playthrough of Star Trek Armada. I'm currently in the Borg missions, which is super fun. And we will come up with a bonus episode for April coming up, or we'll be recording for that. I believe this weekend we decided, but TBD, it'll be coming. Get excited if you're on Patreon. If you're not, join. And until then, like and subscribe. Share this nonsense with your friends. Comment on videos. And as always, please do live long and prosper.
All hands abandon ship. Proceed to the nearest evacuation zone immediately.